is getting a little deep. I didn't think we'd go this deep, but so there's a sense in which there are two taboos, right? And you see that in the Bible, you see that in every culture. There's a sacred taboo, right? And so the sacred taboo is something which is too high, I don't have access to. It's hidden behind veils. It's hidden behind
sublimity.
Exactly. But there's another taboo, which is all the things that you, let's say, push away from yourself. So everything, all the fecal stuff, all the things that are meant to be in private, that are meant to be hidden, like nakedness, and also like if you had some kind of deformity or whatever, like you would tend to want to not put that out there, like to kind of hide it or whatever. And so those two taboos. So there's a way in which, in an extremely high manner, Christ transcends that and brings them together in ways that is crazy. So Christ on the cross, naked on the cross, beaten, with a sign saying that he's the king, with a crown of thorns. He joins it all together. Like it's wild. But in the normal world, those are separate, right? And you want to keep them separate. But there's a little trick that people can play, is to confuse one for the other. And that's a lot of what we're seeing. There's a sense in which revealing the taboo of that which is dirty and disgusting and the things that you're usually hide and cut off gives them a little sense of sublimity. It makes them feel like they're participating in something sacred. So it really is like a kind of satanic. That's why the occult is part of this. It is like a weird kind of satanic secret, which if I expose the dark taboos, then I can trick people in thinking it's the same as the secret, the divine secret, let's say.
That's a beautiful point. The conservatives over the last 10 or so years have driven me crazy because they drive me crazy all the time. But because I love them and I don't want to see them do the wrong thing. They've adopted this position of free speech absolutism, and they'll say we should be able to say whatever we want, whenever we want to say it, at all times. That's a good, free, flourishing society. And I say, have you ever read a history book or thought about human nature or even just looked around with your own two eyes? Every society has taboos.
Yep.
Society necessarily has not just standards, but overt taboos, things that cannot be uttered, things that will be held either sacred or so incredibly profane and vulgar that we just keep it away. And so conservatives just completely miss the boat of what's going on, as so often they do. And your observation that the left, their little trick is they'll flip those things.
Oh yeah. And that's why people are talking about cannibalism right now. This is not arbitrary. These are real, let's say, moments where the world is being invaded by meaningful things. And so the fact that the weird kind of leftist people are obsessed with like bringing up cannibalism constantly, they just keep doing it. Yeah. Or just the idea of eating bugs, for example, like all of this type of thing where we want to take the strangeness and the weirdness and we want to elevate it up to the top. It's like these all have coherence. Like nothing of this is accidental. It doesn't mean that it's like a conspiracy that people are controlling. It's like these patterns play themselves out. We fall under principalities and we play things out even without knowing what we're doing. But the idea of cannibalism, for example, is a good example. Like we have the Eucharist. Yeah. That is the highest. It is taboo, it is hidden, it is secret, and then you have vulgar like breakdown of causality where you're gonna eat, not only cannibalism, but you know how they wrote these articles about like growing your own meat of your own body and then eating it. It's like, do you understand that you're at the end of the world when you do that? Like when you have self-causing, like you have a breakdown of causality where it's just circularity. It's like the serpent eating its tail. It's like, you really want to engage in that? That you're bringing about the end of the world, people. Like, this is not good.
Yeah, but it's so titillating.
That's right, exactly. It has that kind of taboo titillation to it. So.
Because I think you see this especially in porn. This is a major cultural shift that over the last, 10 or 15 years, porn is everywhere, and it's because of the internet and because of cell phones and laptops. People just have access to anything they could possibly imagine or not even imagine. They've got that at their fingertips for free, blazing fast. People write into my show constantly, and it's young men who say, I got hooked on porn, my life has been destroyed by porn, I'm addicted, it's perverted, not even just my relationships, but the whole way that I view the world. Yeah. I read some study, it's like 92% of men have looked at porn a lot in their life. Presumably 8% are liars. That's the caveat to the study.
Yeah.
And especially in pornography since time immemorial, you see a lot of this overt occult kind of imagery. It would seem to me that the way to understand porn is that porn is an act of worship.
Yeah. It's definitely sacred. Like there's something sacred. Well, sexuality is sacred, but there's you could understand that Christian sexuality is sacred and sublimated. Like it moves towards sublimation. So it's not completely sublimated, but it moved towards, like, let's say ultimately the highest point of sexuality is to be the bride of Christ. Like that, it would be like the highest point of
sexuality. The church is the bride of Christ. Right. You think of Dante, his erotic love for Beatrice, his lover, leads him directly to this vision of God.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a beautiful image of that. But now, so porn is a so if you want to understand in the Middle Ages when they talked about like incubi and succubi, it's like you can understand that pretty well right now. Like this is what's going on. We're being invaded by succubi and incubi, and the porn is a medium by which sexuality is being, our attention and our sexual attention is being pulled as far away as possible from the sublimation of it. But what it means is that it's also being pulled away from the lower levels, which means just having normal sexual relationships with your spouse, having children, all this. So it's like it's pulling us away into a kind of worship that is, people are gonna, maybe not, I hope they understand, but it is in a way a kind of demon worship.
Of course it is.
Because obviously the people, you're not engaging with the people that you see in the porn. Like they're just disembodied images.
Spirits.
That are vehicles for this like breakdown of sexuality into all these idiosyncrasies. So it's a perfect example. Like if you want to understand in the Middle Ages when they talked about these demons, like, we got them now. Like this is actually what's going on. And the purpose, if you read in the Middle Ages, if you read like the books that talk about these things, they were saying that the purpose is to undo the world. Like that's the purpose, the purpose of the incubus and the succubus is to take the male seed, and to, let's say, have women not have normal relationships with their husband so that the world will be undone, basically. And this is, we're seeing it happen before our very eyes. Like it's, the birth rates are falling like crazy. People, like young, healthy people, like they're just not entering into normal relationships with people from the opposite sex. And it's just ripping us all apart. And it's just weird. It's so weird because it's so clear now. It's actually a good time to be alive in some ways because, 30 years ago or 20 years ago, if you had said, oh, this is anti-human, people actually want humans to exist as little as possible, you said, oh, come on, Jonathan, you're making it up. It's like, well, at this point, it's pretty clear because now they're just saying it straight out. Like, we just want humans to exist as little as possible and to remove them, remove them from the earth as much as we can. And it's like, it's an actual agenda that is up there in the official agendas of the UN or whatever, these big organizations.
Well, you see the two images of sexuality in our culture. You've got the one you've just described of sublimating our sexuality to be the bride of Christ. Dante looking up at Beatrice leads him right up to God. And then the other one is 50 Shades of Grey.
That's right.
And I can't help but notice the former, the Dante and the Beatrice and the bride of Christ, it's full of angels and harps and bright light and beauty. And then the 50 Shades of Grey is full of, you're just whipping people and chains.
It looks like hell. No one's
like
pretending
hell
anymore. Look at an image of hell, like from the Middle Ages, the one that your professors made fun of Christians for believing, and then that's the world, that's it. These are the images that entice people today. And so what are you going to do? It's like, this nobody's lying anymore. It's
nobody's lying.